Hey, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Sam St. John as we wrap up part 5 of our Tom Petty retrospective, the 2010s. We're doing them one decade at a time. Unfortunately, this will be the last decade that we do until we do our grand finale, I would call it, where we rank all of the albums. Tom Petty with the Heartbreakers, Tom Petty solo, and of course, Mudcrutch. So, Sam, this was great to revisit some of these albums that I may have played once or twice and sort of sat them on the shelf, going back to the earlier stuff that I know is in my soul, and opening up this what I'm trying to say is this series that we're doing really opened my eyes to how good this band is, how great a songwriter Tom Petty is, how consistently great they sound, and I think they got better as they went on as far as a band, a tight knit band. This first album we're going to take a look at here, Mojo, which came out in 2010. They're reverting back to their roots of the early days before they even became the Heartbreakers, and were putzing around as teenagers, playing a lot of blues. I watched an interview of Tom Petty, said whenever they get together, the first thing they're doing is playing blues and jamming and just diving in. He said this album in particular, he didn't do a lot of demos. He just played the song for the guys and let them do their parts without, insisting this, and this. And it has that feel of a live recording. It really sounds fantastic. It's the first album they've done in 8 years as the Heartbreakers. He was doing Mudcrutch, some solo stuff. Got Ron Blair on here with the band for the full album for the first time since the early 80s, I guess. Yeah. And even though this is a non-commercial album, I think they're playing for themselves, showcasing their talents. And what do you think of the album? Let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah, it's one of the longer albums. I think it clocks in at 65 minutes for the Petty. Those that are interested in length. You have that pretty much the same lineup you had for the last DJ, except Howie obviously had since passed away. Howie Epstein, like you mentioned, Ron Blair is there. And I think it's cool that the cover just by itself has Ferroni and Scott Thurston on either side with the 4 original guys in the middle. And right. They're all looking really cool. I love Benmont looking sharp there with showing off the hand with the ring. They're just like you said, they're playing super tight. There's a great picture in the inside of them in the clubhouse. They were trying to perform with virtually no overdubs as much as they could. And just great playing. Not an album that I reached for much. I didn't really gain that second appreciation for it until the vinyl reissue came out sometime last year, or it might have been early this year. I can't remember. But it's the 2-record set. But I remember seeing this one in stores. Again, I wasn't fully into Tom Petty yet. I bought the Mudcrutch album, but I heard that this was a blues-based album, when I was in high school, and I wasn't interested in listening to the blues at that point. And kind of threw it off. And then, just to become the completest, ended up getting. Actually, I bought this for my dad when it came out. I remember that. This actually might be his copy, to be honest with you. But I bought it for Dad for Father's Day or something because he loves Tom Petty as well. And that was kind of the first time that I really listened to it. And, again, put it aside. But, going back to it, it's interesting. It's a solid album. Again, not a lot of those classic Petty hooks, not really really big choruses, heavy guitars and drums. We've talked about this, off camera about Ferroni's playing and Mike Campbell really leading the charge. On this album. So it's cool. There's a lot of vintage material. A lot of vintage instruments being played. I think Mike is playing our 59 Les Paul, which was the same type that Clapton, Jimmy Page was playing. There's only 500 or 600 of them made. But really, really interesting record. Just stuff that you kind of you learn more about it the more you listen to it. Each of the songs has a depth. There's a lot of longer songs, and I think it's a pretty tight album. definitely. Even
It
though they're
is.
trying to be loose in the studio, they're playing super tight.
Yeah, great. That's a great listen as an album in that format. You know, you're not going to pick out individual songs really and jump around much on this. I think it flows beautifully. It sounds terrific. The engineer did a great job on it. Interested to see what the tracks are that stand out to you. Well, 3 favorites and maybe some underrated stuff on here. Sleepers.
Yeah. For me, again, going 3, 2, 1. Number 3 is going to be the opening track, the Jefferson Jericho Blues. Great harmonica, powerhouse of a tune. I guess it's Scott Thurston on the harmonica. At least it was live, and
Yeah.
it's just fast paced, kind of tune. Just that call and response, classic blues structure of a song. Just really, really great. Petty's got a super, chill kind of singing to it, but I mean, it's a rocking track. Number 2 is going to be a deeper cut on the album, which is "Don't Pull Me Over," kind of a reggae almost feel. Almost, I know Tom Petty liked to like Jimmy Cliff a lot. I mean, he used to play Jimmy Cliff a lot on his radio show Buried Treasure, which was super big at this time on XM radio. And it was just a cool song. It's them saying "Don't pull me over, Mr. Policeman." Just great, kind of funky, kind of sounding tune. I really like it a lot. And then number 1 for me, I mean, I tried to avoid this being number 1 because it was the big single, but I went with "I Should Have Known It." It was the song that really stuck around from this album in the live sets. I think he even was playing it on the last tour. It just got that great guitar by Mike Campbell, that bow down 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 bow down down bow, and then Ferrone just cracks it on the drums. I know on that recent Petty Country tribute album, Chris Stapleton does it with Mike Campbell. And that's a really cool version as well. Super heavy track, really cool music video with Tom in the shades with the beard. So if you listen to one song from the album, I recommend "I Should Have Known It." Yeah, I'll do those 3, and then you can go, and I guess we'll talk about our deep cut.
Yeah, I just want to mention I should have known it. It sort of sounds like a Led Zeppelin riff a little bit. It's that heavy.
Definitely.
And I listened to the Chris Stapleton side of it too. I like Petty's version better, but that's just who I am. My number 3 is the same one you have. Jefferson Jericho Blues. Great opening track. It's a cool jam. The harmonica does stand out. It sets the tone for what you're about to hear too, which is important in an opener. Love it. Number 2 on my list is Candy, pure blues. I just like that. It reminds me of an artist I used to see locally here. Same kind of vibe that this song gives off. It's just pure blues. I sure like that Candy. I don't go for them turnip greens. It's a kind of Southern kind of lyrics, and just it's Petty, being cool as he always is, altering his voice a little bit too, and some of the phrasing he does.
Yeah.
But my number 1 is Running Man's Bible.
Oh, cool.
Love this. I absolutely love this song. Got a great groove. It's fantastic. Anybody that hasn't heard it, check it out. Really about survival, a running man's Bible. And I just like everything about it. It's in my head right now. It just keeps playing and playing. And that's really my biggest takeaway from this album. So I'm glad we're doing this series. I'm glad that some of these songs are now in my all-time Petty catalog, as it were. So a couple of minor, ones that I had a hard time keeping out of the top 3 for me. First Flash of Freedom. It's a second track. It's got some of that Allman Brothers vibe, even a little bit of that Crosby, Stills, and Nash on Wooden Ships. I can hear that guitar kind of playing along with that. I like the Trip to Pirates Cove too. Slow paced, but interesting song. And also Let Yourself Go. Great harmonica and guitar work in that. So those would be the 3 runner-ups that I have. How about you?
I would throw in the last song, Good Enough. It's kind of almost like a I want you so bad kind of thing, like the Beatles.
Yes.
I want you so heavy. Just a long extended jam. I also like the song No Reason to Cry, kind of a ballad. Like that one a lot. And US 41 is a great tune as well. Really love like how he puts like an effect on his voice. I love that kind of slide guitar. US 41 is a great tune. So those are some other cuts.
Very good. All right, and then we're going to jump ahead, 4 years, 2014, with Hypnotic Eye, the 13th and final Heartbreakers album. Yeah, there's the back. Looking at that little wavy Hypnotic Eye vision on television there. Something that'll hook a kid in, anybody really. Yeah. Trying to read between the lines and figure out what's going on. Test pattern. Uh-huh. And this is a rock and roll album for me. Not so much the blues. It has a little bit of blues in it, but this is again the band doing their thing, playing great music. And again, there's some gems on here that I had forgotten about or didn't dive into like I should have, and fantastic. What do you think?
This was my Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers college album. I was getting into it late into my sophomore year of college and into my junior year. Listened to it all the time. Again, I was full on Tom Petty in college, getting into all the deep cuts. And this was, I guess officially, this was the first Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album that I bought new, because I didn't buy Mojo when it first came out. But I absolutely fell in love with it. I remember when the single came out, I think it was American Dream Plan B was the first single that was released. Just those crunchy guitars, and going back, like a lot of the reviews were saying this was kind of the Heartbreakers going back to those first couple of garagey albums that they put out. Those first two albums, the self-titled, and then You're Gonna Get It. And I can hear that. I can also hear the bridge from that with Mojo going into this album, because there are some bluesy kind of cuts on here, but it's more hooky. The choruses are more there. But it's got a modern feel to it, but in a great way. It's not, like them trying to be with everybody else. It's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers in 2014. And great. I think this was the year that they went on tour with Steve Winwood. I think they did a great tour. This was the only time I could have seen Tom Petty was on this tour. In terms of him just being within close proximity to me. I didn't get to do it. But anyway, I got, lots of playing hours with this record, going back and forth to college. So I absolutely love it.
Yeah. See, I'd forgotten the year, but I did see the tour with Steve Winwood at the Wells Fargo Center here in Philadelphia.
And
fantastic.
I should say it's the only Tom Petty album to go number 1 on the Billboard 200, but it was one of those deals where they added the album to ticket sales on on Ticketmaster or whatever they were using. So anybody that bought a ticket to that tour got a copy of the album. So that kind of pushed it. So I don't really count it as the only number 1, but
right.
Anyway, based on numbers, it sold like 110,000 copies or something.
Yeah, and this one's shorter than the last one we talked. There's only 11 songs on here compared to 15 on the last one on Mojo.
And the same Heartbreakers lineup. Yeah.
Same lineup.
Yeah.
And there's a couple ballads on here, some hard rockers. There's a blues or tune or two. Definitely garagey. That's a good word for it. That's what it sounds like. And just fantastic songs all the way through. Some stronger than others. What do you think for your favorites here on this one?
Top 3 for me. Again, I'm going to go with that first single, the opening track, American Dream Plan B, which is kind of a take on, not going with the American dream of, get a job, get a family, all that. So if that's the American dream, I'm going to need a plan B. And then like the chorus, I'm going to dream till I fight. I've got a dream. I'm going to fight till I get it right. And then it's got that crunchy Campbell guitar. Just a fantastic tune. Absolutely love it. Number 2, I'm going to go with All You Can Carry from the album. I love that track too. I love that whole, we got to run line at the end of every chorus. And then again, Mike is just killing it on all the tones on his guitar. I think it's just a fantastic tune. And always like hearing it. It's one of those I always kind of forget about until I listen to the album. And number 1 for me, it was no question, is the song Forgotten Man. Kind of a Bo Diddley, again, kind of, rhythm to it. it's just a rocking tune. Great. Again, the band's just locked in there. Ferrone's
Yeah.
playing the drums like a madman. I just think it's an absolutely killer track. It's as good as any rocker Petty ever put out. I mean, it's right there. I mean, I know I mentioned it with like Saving Grace on Highway Companion, which was a later day, Petty rocker. This one's right up there too. This was one of the last great Petty rockers, and I absolutely love it. So Forgotten Man is number one for me.
Yeah, we're close in our assessment here. My number 3 is American Dream Plan B. I do like that hook. I'm going to dream. I'm going to fight till I get it. And the that in the beginning is a sort of a distorted vocal. It doesn't really sound like Petty until the chorus to me. That's just a straight ahead driving rock tune. Fantastic. My second favorite is Fault Lines. I love this song too. Kind of a self-examination. I got a few of my own, giving examples of fault lines in human beings. Nice little sizzling guitaring on this as well. Love it. And my number 1, can't believe we hit on it, Forgotten Man.
Yeah.
I feel like a 4-letter word, and he's got that cool rhythm pattern with Ferrone on the drums. I don't know what he's playing, but it works, and beautiful song. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to see Mike Campbell in the Dirty Knobs, which we'll talk about later, back in November, and he did Fault Lines at that show, which was cool. Playing a deep cut from essentially a deep cut Petty album. Not the early Petty fans don't necessarily know Hypnotic Eye, and the fact that Campbell pulled out Fault Lines from it is really cool.
Yeah, and I'd like, getting back to Forgotten Man, I just like Petty's phrasing again. I feel like a forgotten man. He just sort of has that cool phrasing.
Yeah.
And everything about it. A couple of sleepers that I really like. I like Red River. I like All You Can Carry, and Shadow People has a kind of a evil lurking below the surface kind of feel at the end.
Yeah.
All good.
I like You Get Me High. I think that's a cool song. I mean, I also like Fault Lines. I love Red River, kind of like a modern, rock western kind of tune.
Yeah.
Just a great tune. There's a great version of Fault Lines on one of those comps that he put out. It's a completely different melody, almost completely different lyrics from like a couple of years prior to this that he never released, and then completely rearranged it for that record. So it's a rocking album for those that haven't heard it.
Yeah. All right, and then we're going to go to 2016, which is really the last studio album for Tom, and it's with Mudcrutch. Mudcrutch 2, the cool bear squaring off on the cover there.
Yeah, it's cool.
Gotta like that. This is an interesting album because Petty, there's 11 songs, but he only sings lead on 7 of them, and each of the other members of the band have a crack at a songwriting credit as well as lead vocals.
Yeah, kind of cool.
It is cool to share the spotlight, so to speak. It's a real interesting way to do it. And the drummer Randall Marsh.
Yeah.
Who else is on here? Ben Montench, of course, is Tom Ledden, Ben Mont, and Mike Campbell. They're all taking turns, and they spread them out among the album. The first 3 tracks are Petty's, and then they stagger them from there on. But really interesting. I'm interested to see if you have any of the other guys as your favorites other than the Petty written tracks. So we'll get to that. What do you think of the album in general?
Yeah, it's a very it's a much more polished album than Mudcrutch, the first self-titled, which came out I guess 8 years before in 2008. And again, you have the original. Well, you have the same 5 guys that made up that Mudcrutch lineup, but they bring in a couple of extra guys, like Herb Peterson is on this album, who played with Chris Hillman in the 80s in the Desert Rose Band, and is just a great, multi-instrumentalist. He also played with the Dillards, who were a bluegrass, like progressive bluegrass group. They were the Darlin family on Andy Griffith, and then he took over after their banjo player, Doug Dillard, left. So he's playing banjo. He's doing a lot of the background vocals. And you have a couple other people that make an appearance. But I think it's a really good album. Again, it's more polished. Again, that first album was done in like less than 2 weeks. recorded all live in the studio. This one they took their time with, and I think it's a really good album. I really do. And the fact that the irony of it being his last album is kind of fitting, that his last album was with his first band that were kind of an afterthought until that first album, and then kind of became an afterthought again. But again, but to do it with Benmont and Mike by his side, I mean, it was a pretty fitting way for him to go. I do think it's a great album. It kind of has Heartbreakers feel to it, but it's also got that Mudcrutch kind of folky country kind of stuff on here. But it's a little bit rockier, and it's all originals. The other Mudcrutch album had a lot of traditional tunes and covers. Like it's had the Bird song. It had 6 Days on the Road. This one is all, it's all written by all the guys. And whereas the last album had Tom Leadon and Benmont Tench doing dual vocals. Again, like all 5 guys were given a shot.
Right.
So
in their own style, what they excel in, and you can hear that. A Mike Campbell song from a Benmont song, from a Tom Leadon song. I mean, they all have their own stamp on it. It's cool.
Yeah. So I think it's a fine record. I really do.
Yeah. And what sticks out? What are your top 3?
Well, this one was hard, and I mean, there's some really good stuff on here. The first one I'm going to go with is one of the ballads, which is "I Forgive It All," which is a beautiful track, and it's kind of, I know I've read critics talk about, it's kind of like Petty saying, after all the years that people kind of put him down for going against the system and being his own guy, it's kind of him just saying to everybody, like, whatever mean things y'all said to me over the years, I forgive it all. And it's just this beautiful acoustic guitar, simple lyrics, but his voice is almost just, it's almost sounds frail, but it's not. But it's got this really, really great tender sound to it. I just absolutely love the track. Number 2 is going to be the song "Trailer," which is the opening track, which dates back to the Heartbreakers. It was the B-side to "Don't Come Around Here No More" from the Southern Accents album. And it was rewritten with a 3rd verse for this. It was re-recorded. Definitely a song that could have fit on Southern Accents. I know we've talked about that before. It should have probably been on Southern Accents. But it works well here with the harmonica. It was a great single when they released it back in 2016. So "Trailer" for me is going to be number 2. Just about two people in love that doesn't matter that they have nothing. They're living in a trailer. And number 1 for me is, to me, could potentially be a top 10 Tom Petty song, is the last song, "Hungry No More." I just think that is just what a closer to an album. Again, it's a slow burn. It's got Herb Peterson singing some great vocal harmonies with him. And it just builds up to that chorus where he just almost shouts, "Well, I ain't going to be hungry no more." Kind of breaks your heart to listen to it now that he's gone. That was the last track that he, put out there, officially. And I just think it's a beautiful song. If you haven't heard it, check out "Hungry No More." I just think it's a great, great, great closing song to a fantastic career.
Yeah, I have that one down as a grower for me. Every time I hear it, I think more of it.
Yeah.
It did not make my top 3 though this time. My number 3 is actually, I'm going to go with the Mike Campbell tune, "Victim of Circumstance."
Great.
Just
awesome.
A kick-ass rocker. And, we're going to talk about Mike Campbell, what he's doing now, but this is a little taste of what, the Dirty Knobs might sound like down the road. So that's going to be my number 3.
Very good.
Riding with the breeze through the dogwood trees. I mean, I just like some of those lyrics in there too.
Down easy. It's great.
It is. Number 2 is "Trailer." You mentioned it was going to be, it was the B-side of "Don't Come Around Here No More" back in '85. Could have made that album. I think it fits in better with Mudcrutch myself. That's what I would say. I love the harmonic in it. We used to dance to Leonard Skinner, like the love song you're talking about. I like all that stuff. And my number 1, easy, head and shoulders for me. What I like, "I Forgive It All." Touching, poignant, personal. The voice, just mellow. The little guitar picking, whatever. I think it's a beautiful song. There's a cool video that goes with it too, where Anthony Hopkins is walking through sort of some beat down areas of cities, and you can use your imagination what Petty's trying to get to. You mentioned about all the people that's come down on him, maybe even his father a little bit, because I know he was abused as a kid.
He was
Maybe
divorced.
divorce, so I forgive it all. And it's again fitting that it's on really the last studio album he has. I mean, that's good to let that stuff go, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
let it go. Just I forgive it all. Whatever it came before, I forgive it all. And it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. I encourage anybody to listen to that song and
Definitely.
not get maybe a little tear welling up a little bit. It's
Yeah.
it's excellent, really top notch. So that will take care of all of the albums that we're going to rank in our next video. But we wanted to touch on some things that happened posthumously. We'll get to that in a second. As you know, we're not going to make this a downer with Tom Petty passing away, but he did have a 40th anniversary tour in 2017. I think it started in April, and his last show was in Hollywood, California in September, and then he passed away in early October, right, of 2017. And at the age of 66, a few weeks before his 67th birthday. It was very shocking. I remember exactly where I was. I heard the news. I could not believe it. It gives me chills thinking about it today. It just shook me. I said, no way, this has got to be a mistake. Somebody's got bad information out there. And, it turns out he was walking around with a fractured hip and taking pain meds and whatever he was on. I'm not judging anybody, but just a loss to the musical world and to all the Tom Petty fans who love his music and still have it. Thank God that we can put on this stuff and just enjoy it. I know you have some memories of his passing too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like you. I remember exactly where I was. I was, what job I was working, and I was at a spot where I didn't have a lot of internet. So I kept trying to refresh my phone to see what was, Rolling Stone was posting stuff and all the other sites that I followed. And, everybody that knows the story knows. I won't get into it. But yeah, I just remember driving home after work. I got off work at 3 and it was just, in silence, and even, going home and listening to the music that week. And then, 2 weeks later, like you said, celebrating his 67th birthday, what would have been. And it was just like, he had so much more to give. I know he was in a good space mentally with, what he wanted to do with some anniversary editions where he wanted to tour with the Heartbreakers, like small shows, that kind of thing. He wasn't going to stop.
No, not at all.
And he was just going to, he put off some medical procedures that he probably should have done early, but he wanted the fans to have their tour without being delayed. And, at the end of the day, thank goodness he did. But, it was a heartbreaking thing, but, it's one of those things that, the music kind of speaks for itself when you go back and listen to it. And it definitely gives it a new perspective now that he's been gone for 7 years now almost.
Yeah. And we just want to hit on some of these posthumous releases, these wonderful compilations and packages that were released. We'll start with American Treasure. Comes out the following year in 2018, I believe. This is a 4-disc companion piece of all the great music of Tom Petty. I think his daughter was really big on putting this out.
A lot of unreleased stuff on it. A lot of unreleased
stuff. Then you got the best of everything. This is another one that's 2 discs. If you just want to stick to the best of everything, pick this one up. How about this? Wild Things and all the rest. I know you're huge on this one. Talk about this. This is massive.
Yeah, there was an ultra set that had like 5 or 6 discs in it with all the Wildflowers demos and extra cuts. It was just fantastic. My favorite box set, no question.
Right. How about that one? American
Angel Dream. Yep.
Angel Dream. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Another one. And then the most recent would be this Live at the Fillmore when they were the house band in 1997. This is jam-packed. This is like, if you want to hear the band live, doing all kinds of unreleased stuff that nobody's ever heard before, covers, and just at the peak of their career, really, I would say. Just fantastic stuff. So all of that stuff is well worth earning. owning. And then individually, Mike Campbell has gone on to have a band of his own called the Dirty Knobs, and he's put out these 3 really strong albums, one by one here. External Combustion, of course.
Reckless Abandon. Yep.
Reckless Abandon, and the latest, which has the cool title Vagabonds, Virgins, and Misfits. Yep. All 3 again have some gems on them. You can hear a lot of the Petty music within the context of what Campbell and his band are playing. And I know you have a couple you want to talk about too.
Yeah, this came out the same year as Hypnotic Eye. Benmont Tench with his right now only solo record called You Should Be So Lucky. Mostly originals, but he also does Karina Karina, which Bob Dylan made popular. He also does Duquesne Whistle, which was a Bob Dylan song from Tempest, one of his more recent albums. But everything else is, pretty standard Benmont Tench kind of style. But he's got some great people on. I mean, Tom Petty's on here. Ringo is on here. Ryan Adams, Don Was, Gillian Welsh, and David Rawlings. So there's some stars on it. Just really, really good stuff. And then at the most technical side of things, the last thing that Tom Petty ever did officially for music was he produced this album by Chris Hillman of the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers called Biding My Time. It was kind of a retirement comeback for Chris Hillman, who hadn't put out an album in 15 years or so. But it's the closest thing we ever got to a Byrds reunion with David Crosby and Roger McGuinn and Chris Hillman, because they're both on the album, albeit on different songs. But Tom Petty plays on this a few times. He plays harmonica, I think some guitar. Again, we mentioned Herb Peterson. He's on here. Benmont Tench is on here. So lots of good stuff. It's got Petty all over it. And he also does a version of Wildflowers on here, the Tom Petty track. So if you want to get the last thing by Tom Petty, this is technically it. Biding My Time by Chris Hillman. So
very cool. That's the only album that we've shown in the whole 5 parts that I do not own. So I have to grab that for sure.
You do need to get it. It's cheap online, probably under $15.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have to go to the hard part.
The hard part. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's watched all 5 of these Decades episodes. We appreciate the comments, positive reinforcement, all that good stuff. Go over and check out Sam St. John's channel. We will be back for one more wrap up of this material where we rank 18 albums. We're talking about 13 Heartbreakers albums, 3 solo Petty albums, and the 2 Mudcrutch albums. This is an impossible task, but we're going to take it on and see what we do. I expect us to have completely different lists, which is cool. That's what we should have. Yeah. It's going to be fun to do that. I think it's going to be outstanding. It's one of the best series I've done myself.
I love it. It's been so fun.
As far as getting into one artist and just going through every single album chronologically, it's been fun. I couldn't think of a better person to do it with. I consider myself a Tom Petty fan, but Sam is a walking Tom Petty encyclopedia, folks. Period. End of story. And you can tell by the way he talks about the man and knows all the intimate details. And he's the best guy in the world to do this with. So thank you again, Sam, for doing this. I do appreciate it. If you like this content, like, subscribe, leave a comment, go over to Sam, sub him up if you haven't already. So for Sam, this is Rich. I want to thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.